Good morning. It is Monday, October 24th, 2022. I thought I'd come on because we have officially, or about to officially enter Scorpio season started yesterday and eclipse season starts tomorrow. We had eclipses earlier this year in the spring, if you remember, April and May, and now we have one tomorrow and then again at the beginning of November. In 2 weeks from tomorrow. So whenever we have eclipses, they're on what's called an axis, and in astrology that tends to coordinate with two signs that are opposite each other. And so the eclipses have been in Taurus and Scorpio. So why we've kind of had a lot of energy around the Taurus eclipses, because when we think about Taurus, we think about physical structures, we think about our bodies, we think about our sensory experiences, nature, our environments, things like that. And so when we have eclipses, they come in every year to create change and shifts. And then those shifts tend to unravel over about 6 months, sometimes more. So when an eclipse happens, it's not always like, boom, something happens that day, although usually there are within the day before, aka today, tomorrow, and the next. Sometimes there's something, even if it's a thought form, that then unravels over those next 6 months. But it is about change. And, humans don't tend to love change, but it's absolutely necessary, for our evolution. It's absolutely necessary for our happiness and our joy. So I just wanted to talk briefly about tomorrow's and a little bit about the season we're in and just some heads up. So if you're not familiar with Scorpio in general, we have all of our signs in astrology coordinate with an element, and in Scorpio's case, it's water. And when I think about the level of water Scorpio it's the deepest part. So if you were in the ocean, thinking about what it is to be at the bottom of the ocean floor, there's no light, you can't feel what's around you, you can't see what's around you. It's frightening. It can be very frightening. So we're entering into that time of year right now, and one of the things that this eclipse is what we call a south node eclipse. So there are two nodes to the moon, the north node and the south node. The north node tends to be our destiny, where we're headed to, the direction we're going in, where we're evolving, that place of evolving. The south node is the karma, the stuff that we've come in with, the things we need to release to allow us to move towards that north node, our north star, so to speak. And this in particular, because we're in Scorpio season, the eclipse is in Scorpio, and we have some other things that are going on right around now too, but just generally speaking, we're losing light by the day, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. And so this is a time of year where we really need to be taking our rest and are slowing down seriously. We don't tend to do that here, at least in the United States. We have school and sports and holidays and parties and celebrating and all of these things happening at this time, which is great at one level, but we have to remember that a lot of it can defy the natural rhythm of this time of year, and as a result, pull on our own resources more. So with this particular eclipse tomorrow, it's asking us to release, not just release just anything, but something, maybe particularly a habit, a way of thinking, a way of, approaching your day, a way of treating your body that is really time to let go of. You came into this world with it. It probably was a survival mechanism for you and has been. But this is an opportunity to release it, because you know very well that thing is keeping you from your potential, is keeping you from where you want to go, that north node. So when we're in these states and in these days before and after an eclipse, it's important actually to a lot of people think, oh, I want to go out and see the eclipse, and they get engaged. It's actually, no, we kind of want to be taking care of ourselves right now because of the level of change that's going to move through us. And because this one's going to be quite physical, I highly recommend you prioritizing the slowing down, not taking on anything more than you need to this week, and potentially canceling some things now, because things are going to probably start to get rumbly. In about a week, around October 30th, Mars, our planet of action, direction, war, militant, that masculine, strong energy is going to go retrograde at the same time, of this, the shadow of this eclipse experience. We don't like, when Mars goes retrograde, it's not fun. It usually happens, every year or so at different times of the year, but it can lead to a lot of uprooting, a lot of aggression, a lot of anger issues and things like that coming up. So I'm just feeling like this time, only because I'm noticing it in myself, just certain aspects, as you can see from my posts, this deep-seated anger that's not just in me, but that I'm seeing consistently among my patients, friends, particularly women, but men are not excluded by any means, because we all have a masculine and feminine aspect to ourselves. And chances are one of those sides has been less developed than the other. And because of that, we can have this imbalance within us. And when moments like this happen, we can react. So all of this to say that it's time. If you don't think that we are not in the middle of the biggest human, shifting, paradigm changing, transformative life cycle that this planet has ever seen, then you haven't been paying attention. We are not at the effect of these things. We are actually creating these changes. And those of you that might be clinging on to old structures and old ways of doing things are going to suffer greatly if you do not learn to release and let go of control in those areas. We are meant to be flowing in this water with a little bit more ease. We are meant to be going into those deepest parts of ourselves and asking, what can I now release that I do not need anymore? What has actually been getting in the way, of me going after my dreams or accomplishing my dreams, or even just creating more intimacy in my life? How are you creating more intimacy with the people in your life, with the work that you do, with your relationship with spirit or nature or the world around you? These are the important questions to be asking right now. And if you want to go even more focused, you can look in your chart. If you know how to look up your chart, in astrology, it's a wheel, and the signs go around the wheel, and each sign will coordinate up with different houses, and each house represents a different area of your life. In my case, Scorpio is over what we call my midheaven. The midheaven is my career, what I'm putting out in the world, how what people are seeing coming from me. It can be the place where we have our public life in a lot of ways. So that's me. That's in my case, but that's because that's where Scorpio sits. So I'm expecting there to be some deep shifting and changing around the way that I'm approaching that. And frankly, it started probably, I want to say 2 weeks ago, this really strong conversation of it's time for me to be seeking more pleasure in my life and actually abandoning this militant that tends to be inside, forcing me to do things, because I think I'm supposed to, or I think that's what's expected of me, or because I don't trust myself to do it. And what this change is trying to say is you don't have to do it that way. You can let go of that control. You can trust the process of life. You can embrace your own pleasure. And in embracing your own pleasure, you actually show up in a more full form of yourself in which to transmit information, transmit energy back into the world. And for me, that's important. Really important, because I am an activist at heart, but I'm a priestess, in spirit, so, but if that activist isn't in touch with that priestess, she's really angry that Mars, I'm going to fight and I'm going to probe you. And you can see that obviously you can see when I'm in these modes based on my posts, they are there to probe and sometimes instigate. And sometimes that's not productive. And I know that. But it's the way that I'm feeling and the only way I know how to express myself. So I'm really trying to bring in that priestess energy to start trusting a process more and allowing myself to release some of that anger and trust of this transformative process, not just I'm going through, but the collective is going through. And that part of my job is to be embodied in what I am moving towards. Not where I've been, and a lot of times we tend to approach what we go after or those things we stand up for based on our victimhood and the experiences that we've been through in the past. But it's time to kind of shift that and actually embody the gifts of those traumas, the gifts of that history, the gifts of that ancestral line that you come from, the bloodline that you come from, and say, why would I as a soul have chosen those things if it weren't for the eventual purpose of evolving my soul and my spirit? So I know that's a lot on a Monday morning. It's Moon Day, by the way, so it's a good day to kind of reflect. And being that the eclipse is going to be tomorrow, I think it's going to be in the early morning, if I'm not mistaken, here on the East Coast, I think around 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. It's a good time, to sit and meditate and be connected to that energy if you're open to it. But if you can't, then just keep it simple and keep your day as light as you can. Don't just allow the day to go, but allow things to move through you, and then notice, because we're going to be in for a ride in this next month. And the more connected to yourself and your own, triggers and mechanisms that you can stay observant of, the easier this will go in your own release process. And I promise you, on the other side, you're going to be so amazed by what happens when we just allow ourselves to be in sync with nature and the laws of the universe. So I leave that with you today. If you don't know what to do, you can also just look up your horoscope over this next day or two, and it'll probably be addressing this aspect for you. So if that's all that you do, take a look at that. Also, just with that said, a lot of times people will look at their sun sign for their horoscope. You actually want to look at your what we call rising sign or ascendant sign. So when we look at that wheel of your chart, it's all the way to the left on the heart. It's on that horizon all the way to the left. Whatever sign that is considered your, rising sign. And that is going to probably give you a more accurate description about this eclipse, just simply because it will be more informative about where this is going off, what house in your chart. So take a look at that. And if you need anything or interested, feel free to comment below. Let me know how things are going in your life and how you've been handling all of these shifts and changes that are moving through us. And I send you lots of love and lots of rest and lots of ease through this process. Have a good day.